Last year, for the first time, the Ministry of Education rolled out, or introduced rather, the CPEA exam, that's the Caribbean Primary Exit Assessment, which replaced the old Common Entrance exam as we knew it. The feedback we received from last year's exam was quite encouraging. We were satisfied with the performances of our students generally, but of course there would always be room for improvement. This year, 2023, we are witnessing the second rollout, or we are having the exam administered for the second time in St. Lucia. And today, approximately 2,000 students, or should I say 2,015 to be precise, took the exam at 22 examination centers across the length and breadth of this country. Most of our secondary school buildings are being used today as examination centers. I was on the ground from very early this morning. I started in Vieux Fort at the Binfield Secondary. From there, I moved to the Vieux Fort Comprehensive Secondary, and thereafter I journeyed all the way to Choiseul just to get a feel on the ground in terms of how the administration of the exam was progressing. And I must say I'm extremely pleased with what I witnessed. We had no major hiccups, so to speak. And generally, my interaction with teachers, invigilators, and even students themselves did signal that we have done well in terms of preparing for the exam, and for there to be a rollout this year that would not prove problematic for the Ministry of Education. I want to take the opportunity to say to parents and teachers that assessment is a critical component of the education life cycle. And you really need to know how impactful what we do in the classroom is. And the only way we can do so is to have forms of assessment that would tell us the extent to which our children are grasping the concepts, the skills and the aptitudes that we are looking to impart. But this is not a situation where the performance of a child on the CPE exam would determine whether the child becomes successful in life or not. This is just a stopgap measure just to determine if our children are achieving at the rates that we have established as education policy personnel. So I do not want too much pressure to be exerted on the students. And with the few students whom I spoke this morning at the Daniel Riviere Combined School, students from the Olio Combined School whom I met on the premises of the Clendon Mason Memorial Secondary, those from the Labrie Boys School and the other schools in the South with whom I interface, I was very clear in my mind in employing them to be relaxed and to enjoy the experience, and that they should not exert too much pressure on themselves as it relates to sitting the exam. There are two main components to the CPEA. There's the internal component and there's the external component. The internal component deals with work that is done in the classroom during the normal course of the school year. And the Ministry of Education is hoping that by Thursday, the 19th of May, the grades for the internal component will be with the assessment unit, which of course will be transferred to the CXC headquarters in Barbados, where the scripts, or should I say the papers, will be marked and the grades will be tallied. We have been using this particular exam in grade 6 as a placement exam to determine which of the secondary schools our children would transition into. Again, I will say even before the papers have been graded, that we ought not to place too much pressure on the children. There are parents who have been very firm, and there are parents who have placed a lot of pressure on kids simply because they have certain expectations in terms of the schools that they would want the children to attend. For us, we're saying that all of our secondary schools are equipped with competent teachers, and the majority of them are very well managed. And as much as possible, we try to have personnel in the secondary schools who will impart the curriculum and give the children an experience that will serve them well long after they would have left school. But sometimes I think too much is made out of those exams, and as much as they are important stopgap measures to determine the extent to which our children are learning or grasping the concepts that we teach. But I think at times that we ought to focus a little more on teaching our children to cause them to transition from one aspect or one stage of life to another than just being preoccupied with an examination where marks are ascribed and children are basically compared to each other. We're trying to move away from this competition element of the exam, and when the results come out this time around, we will be in a position where the modality that we employ in terms of how we share the results with schools and the wider public will be one where schools are not, we will not be pitting schools one against the other, but instead we will give a comprehensive overview in terms of how our children perform. We will do the necessary analysis of the different items, and that of course should inform instruction in terms of the areas that we need to pay greater attention to as we move forward at the primary level. And I'm hoping that even the results of the CPEA itself would be able to inform instruction at the Form 1 level in the secondary schools, because as you know, with universal secondary education, practically every child in grade 6 is already guaranteed a place at the secondary school. I must also tell you that these are exciting times for the grade 6 students, and even before they enter Form 1, when I spoke to some of them this morning, just as a means of motivating, I did share with them that the Ministry of Education, and by extension the government of St. Lucia, has already procured laptop computers, Chromebooks, that will be presented to them when they register at whatever school that they transition to in September. So I want to take the opportunity to thank personnel from the assessment unit, in particular the registrar of exams in the person of Miss Carmelita Matthew. I want to thank the teachers of grade 6 who have worked diligently just to ensure that the children are prepared for the examination. And I must place on the record my gratitude to the number of invigilators from across the country who have always been lending support to the Ministry of Education to ensure a very successful rollout and administration of the CPEA exam.